So, in the last lecture, we discussed interactive advertising, internet advertising, online advertising, all pretty much the same thing. And although we incorporated mobile advertising, really is mobile is just kind of an alternative device. We didn't really talk too much about mobile. And so what I want to do in this lecture today is to focus on mobile in its own right. And so I'm going to scroll past all these many slides. I think it's past 120, believe it or not. It's a long presentation, wasn't it, everybody? Oh, yeah. We're getting here, I think. Yeah. I recall that in the last presentation I ended up finishing by we discussed what is sort of an analogy or another way of trying to look at what the internet is. And we took a look at this book, Where the Wild Things Are. And ended up saying, I think, that the internet on its own is certainly an immensely powerful thing, capable of beauty and knowledge and all wisdom and everything else. But if it does become evil sometimes, it's because of who's on the other side of the medium. And many times you don't even know who's on the other side of the medium, although I just saw in the news today, actually I saw it last night, and then fleshed out more fully today, that Google is now going to demand that every company that advertises on their site, or every person, identify themselves itself. And not just give the name of the company, but give documentary evidence of an address and some other things, or they won't be able to put an ad on Google's site, which is pretty remarkable and pretty interesting. Let's see if Facebook ever does anything like that. Don't know. It means somebody will be looking at a lot of documents, because both sites have a lot of people. But it's obviously the goal is to find out who's on the other side of what gets put on Google. So now we're going to focus on these little devices, these amazing computers that we carry with us everywhere. And these devices are attached to the amazing internet and thus are capable of almost anything in terms of letting us tap into information and entertainment almost wherever we are. And of course, there's never been anything like it in history. And I sort of look at it as each of us has a hose, but instead of getting air from the hose wherever we go, we get this information and entertainment. And so it does kind of remind me, I was looking for a picture of the old type of deep sea diver, the first people who could go underwater for long periods of time without holding their breath, had these helmets kind of like these. They didn't wear bathing suits, though. They wore waterproof suits made out of, I don't know what, canvas or duck cloth treated with something. There were big boots with heavy weights on the bottom of them, which would weigh them down and keep them underwater. And the helmets, just like these, had hoses, which went up to the surface to a machine that pumped air to them. So they couldn't, the hoses were pretty long, but they couldn't wander off just anywhere they wanted, and they weren't swimming freely through the water either. They were plodding around on the bottom of the ocean, sort of like the pirates in that great scene from the first Pirates movie. Remember where they're all walking on the bottom of the ocean, and you see them walking there? Pretty cool. Anyway, so mobile devices are kind of like this, with wireless hoses connected to things. Let's look at the penetration of these devices. This is smartphone penetration in the U.S. From 2010 and then projected for 2021. And you can see that as of now, let's say over 70% of people, households, this was done in 2018, it looks like, have a smartphone. Pretty remarkable. And you can see it here too, either a cell phone or a smartphone. So it looks like another, 10 or so percent maybe have another kind of cell phone, even if they don't have a smartphone. That's what it would appear. This shows let's see, let's see if I can push this darn thing up here a little bit so you guys can read it. Voila. All right, so this is a survey conducted February 7, 2019, as you see on the bottom. This shows any cell phone or smartphone, and this is U.S. Boy, this is pretty amazing. I don't know where it's from Pew again, I think. 96% penetration of any smartphone, 81% of any cell phone, 81% smartphone. So men and women, men seem to be a little higher for some reason. Younger people are the highest, 18 to 29. Well, and I guess 30 to 49, not too far behind. 50 to 64 drops off a little bit. White and black, it looks like people have any cell phone, but not as, pretty much was about the same with smartphones. Interesting. Hispanic, about the same. Less than high school graduate. We go down quite a bit in terms of smartphone. See that? College graduate goes up. Less than 30,000 income goes down quite a bit in terms of the smartphone. Urban, suburban, rural goes down quite a bit, except for the smartphone. Interesting. So based on this research, I think it would appear that less well-educated, poorer people who live in rural areas are not as likely to have a smartphone as other people. Now, when we look across the whole world, I just wanted to take a look at what types of phones we're selling, smartphones, in terms of Apples and Androids. And of course, Samsung is the big Android competitor to Apple. You've got North America, Europe, China. We don't see too many from Apple or Samsung, right? They have their own brands. And you got the Middle East. You have in Africa, you have the Latin American region of South America. And you see some shares of different types of phones, not in terms of just of ownership, but of sales. So interesting that Apple is new phone seems to be bigger in North America than it is in some other places, but it's pretty big in Europe too. Apple's phones dominated the top 5 in North America, while Samsung took 3 of the top spots in Europe. Interesting. In this 2018 and 2019, in terms of millions of units sold, we see the new Apple phone coming in number 1. And then we have the Galaxy phones from Samsung also selling a lot of units. So Samsung and Apple seem to be duking it out pretty well. I just, quick little anecdote. A few years ago when I was working for this Israeli technology company called Magink Display Technologies, it was the world's first full-color digital ink display. It was quite an amazing technology. I think I may have talked about it once or twice already in some lectures. We had an investment in a partnership with Samsung, and actually was with the mobile phone division, and I had the pleasure and privilege of going to Seoul, Korea, staying in the, quote, Samsung hotel, which was the Sheila Hotel. Fabulous hotel, beautiful gym, and the breakfast served the best scrambled eggs I ever ate in my life. We were picked up in, of course, Korean cars, beautiful limousines, black ones, for our meeting at Samsung, and whisked over to Samsung headquarters, which were impeccable, and elevated up to our floor with, and we met with a fellow by the name of Ki-tae Lee, who was the CEO of Samsung mobile phones at that time, in a big conference room. And one of the first things we did was to exchange gifts, because in many Asian cultures, that is a ritual. It's a personal ritual, and it's also a business ritual, because a lot of the politeness from and etiquette from personal carries over into business. So our hosts at Samsung gave each of us, and there were, I think, 3 of us there from Magink, presented us with a box. Inside the box was a beautiful small Celadon base. And if you know what Celadon is, it's that amazing color of green. I don't know how to describe it. Moss green? I'm not sure. There's just nothing like it. And it's a Korean specialty, and it's just beautiful. And so we each got a beautiful little Celadon base. And then, because with the gift, you're supposed to, it's not just any gift, it's supposed to reflect something about your country that's important, something you think the person who receives the gift will enjoy. It's supposed to show some thoughtfulness about the relationship between the two of you. So I had been in charge of getting the gifts for the Israeli company, and I was based in New York, of course, flying all over the world for them. I was head of marketing and sales, and I had purchased pens at Tiffany, not gold ones, but nice enamel pens. So they each came. I was able to give a beautiful blue Tiffany pen box with a nice bow on it to everyone from Samsung, and there were about 8 of them, and each of them had a symbol of New York, which was Tiffany. The box says as much as anything, for those of you who know Tiffany, the robin's egg blue box, and inside was a beautiful ink pen, not a ballpoint pen, a beautiful, I guess you would say, cartridge or fountain pen. So we did that before we started our meeting. And this was, anyway, interesting visit. I'm going to stop here and then pick up with those of you who have heard my media lectures know I have a fascination with electromagnetic waves and the radio waves, and how they've been used by so many media technologies, and we'll pick up there on the other side.